Well, the wait's almost over. The trailer's here, and I couldn't be more excited. Let's get straight into it. Opening the trailer, we get a shot of the creation of the Dark Matter in Season 2, Episode 8. This of course leads to the portal linking 2020 to 2053, where Elizabeth is. Charlotte and Elizabeth then touch each other's hand, a la Jonas and Helga in Season 1, Episode 10. This seems to trigger the apocalypse, which unfortunately is exactly what they didn't want to happen. Moving on though, we now get the famous scene when Alt Marta uses her device to whisk Jonas away to safety, presumably to a different world. The Kahnwald's house is engulfed by the explosion from the power plant. Then we get a shot of Jonas waking up. In this shot, his face annoyingly fills the whole frame, so we cannot see where he is. The way the trailer is cut tries to convince us that this is Jonas waking up in the alt world. However, that doesn't seem to match. His hair is shorter and he is a lot cleaner. I would hazard a guess that this could be a younger Jonas in a flashback, a dream, or maybe a different character travels back in time to a time before Jonas was aged? We get a shot of what I assume is Jonas in the alternate world, due to the red and white tape along the front of the cave, and the amount of mist there is. There is a voiceover that says, "I'll help you find the origin." It sounds like Alt Marta. I assume she means the mysterious origin of the cycle. In Season 2, Jonas was told that his father's suicide was the origin of the cycle, and everything would be set right by preventing it. We know that Adam was lying and wanted the suicide to take place. It seems the true origin still remains a mystery. Next we get a shot of Stranger Jonas, who is holding a letter that was given to him by young Noah, who said it was from Marta. This letter is what made Stranger Jonas abandon his plan to save Marta from being killed in Season 2, Episode 8, which was the entire reason he came back to 2020 to begin with. So the contents of this letter must be very convincing. I'm really excited to find out what it says. I mean, the show has a really good record when it comes to mysterious letters. Some more voiceover by Alt Marta. She says, "The one thing, the beginning for everything." This just further backs up the idea of her helping Jonas find the trigger for the cycle. We then get a shot of a family tree. This is definitely one of the most intriguing shots from the whole trailer for me. I'm sure that you can all join me in saying that I would pay a lot of money for that camera just to zoom out a little more. My first thought was Jonas and Alt Marta would go in the middle, where the two worlds meet. On closer inspection, however, it seems that the link between the two worlds is actually Tronta's dad and Agnes's husband, due to the lines seeming to signify child-parent relationships. There are many theories about who Tronta's father is, the favourite seeming to be Bartos. Could Bartos and Alt Bartos switch places, but then both go on to be Tronta's father in their own worlds? Whatever the theory, it does seem that Tronta's father is going to be very important to it all. Or at least a character within the world thinks that he will be. That is, unless they keep the religious theme going and make Tronta have no dad. Another couple of things to be noted are the fact that Daniel Kahnwald, Enos's father, is only connected to Enos herself. Enos's mother is not in the tree. This would lend to the idea that it's not a complete family tree. Also, very annoyingly, one of the biggest mysteries in the show is just out of frame. Noah and Agnes's parentage is right there. The popular theory of Magnus and Franziska being their parents would seem to be put to bed with this image, as Magnus would appear at the bottom left, not from above Noah and Agnes. Also, I should just point out that Noah here is Hanno Toba, or Tuba, however you pronounce it. That's his real name, and in fact I would be willing to bet that that's probably what the alt Noah will go by if we were to see him, because Adam wasn't there to give him the name Noah. I'm sure there's a lot more to notice in this family tree, but I think that's enough for the minute. There's a voiceover of Alt Marta saying, "In your world and in mine," clearly confirming that the infinity symbol in the middle signifies the beginning of the cycle in both worlds. Next comes a shot of Alt Marta in what looks like to be the equivalent of the original world's 1921. She then travels with the device that she had in the Season 2 finale. A shot of Wyndham with Alt Marta saying, "Today is the day everything began." We then have a shot of a post-apocalyptic world with bodies hanging from a tree, obviously just showing us the ramifications of what would happen in the day it all began. Alt Marta continues to say, "Your world and mine," further backing up the idea that the trigger of the cycle was the same thing in both worlds. We then get a side-to-side shot of Jonas and Marta waking up in a similar fashion. Martha seems to be in Jonas's house, judging by the walls. She seems to live there in the alternate world. Is this further evidence that she's the equivalent to Jonas in this world? The infinity symbol is shown with a hand tracing it. The voiceover of Martha continues, "Your world and mine form a knot that is intertwined." A shot is then shown of a young Elizabeth holding a watch in what seems to be the aftermath of the apocalypse. The watch is the one that Noah gave to her for Charlotte. This implies that she'll give it to her baby Charlotte, thus creating yet another bootstrap paradox. We then hear an older woman's voice say, "Everything repeats itself." Could this be the Eve-like figure to Adam? There's an Ariadne book shown. There has been a theme of Ariadne throughout the series. Martha is shown in an Ariadne play in Season 1. Also, there is a red string representing Ariadne guiding Theseus through the maze. Could this be older Alt Marta, due to the book being on the table? There is also a gold watch which looks similar to the one Elizabeth was looking at. Could this Eve-like figure actually be Charlotte? Possibly not, that seems a bit far-fetched, but you never know. I don't know why the watch would be there. We then see our 3 new characters who seem to be working for this Adam-equivalent Eve-like figure. The voice continues, "As none of us are prepared to let go." This insinuates that the reason for the cycle continuing is that previously they have been unprepared to make sacrifices to achieve this goal. This may be pointing to a long-held theory that most of the characters actually wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the cycle. We see various characters with a split screen with their alternate world equivalents. Apparently Katarina needs glasses in the alt world. Maybe the original one did too. It took her far too long to see what a snake Hannah is. Then we see Ulrich looking very colourful. Looks like he's had the Tan France treatment. Again, they show us Marta dying. Fantastic. We see Stranger Jonas managing to create the black matter with his machine. This is the machine Adam was using in Season 2, I can only assume. In the shot of the machine, we can see other characters. If I was to guess who they were, I'd say Magnus, Franziska, Bartos, and Alt Marta. Well, we know Alt Marta was there based on photos previously seen. Also, this shot makes me think that the 1921 equivalent shot with Marta in it at the beginning of the trailer was actually the original world during these pre-Sic Mundus days. There is a voiceover who I think is Stranger Jonas, but I'm not 100% sure, saying, "I want to know the truth." A shot of 2 people in hazmat suits approaching the dark matter in the post-apocalyptic time. It looks like Elizabeth and possibly Charlotte there. That would mean that Charlotte was actually pulled to Elizabeth's location, which is actually different to what happened to Helga and Jonas when they touched through the portal at the end of Season 1. They were sucked in and they went to different times. The 3 new characters are shown using the machine, which looks similar to Adam's dark matter machine, probably in the alternate world. Marta is seen wearing the yellow jacket following Jonas into a cave. However, the cave looks different. Could this be way in the future or way in the past? Not sure. Maybe they're making a comment on global warming. Who knows? The yellow coat kind of adds credence to the Alt Marta as a Jonas equivalent theory. Also, what's Marta looking at here? Young Jonas is heard saying, "Why am I here?" Maybe questioning why he's in the alt world or even the desert-like cave setting. In the aftermath of the apocalypse, the area is being patrolled by what looks like military. They're sealing off the area and containing it. The character is shown looking out from behind a car. I would guess this is young Noah based on the eyes and based on the fact that it was either him or Peter. I think Peter's a bit taller than this though. I would imagine he's trying to get to the dark matter because we know that Noah eventually does travel away from the future, so does he take Elizabeth with him? Does Elizabeth and him have a different past before she eventually returns to the post-apocalyptic world? We then hear someone say, "The apocalypse also happens in our world." This could be an old Eve-like character again, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I think this is Claudia talking to someone in the alt world. It just sounds like her to me. Martha is shown riding her bike around what I assume is the alt world. Then Adam's shown walking down a dark passage, which looks very similar to the place that the alt dark matter machine is. This means perhaps Adam has been travelling between the worlds this whole time. A female voice says, "You believe this? That they'll all die?" It's probably Marta, but I personally cannot place the voice with 100% confidence. If you can, let me know in the comments. A cloaked figure is shown burying a body. This seems to be Peter Doppler, who's wearing the same coat. He seems to be burying all of the people who've died in the apocalypse. I was actually wondering how they got buried. Jonas then answers the previous voice by saying, "It must never happen." He's then shown crawling through the tunnel. Could this be him going to the barren desert-like land? 2 voices are then spliced together in an interesting way. Alt Marta says, "If there could only be one world," and then the mysterious older female voice says, "A world without you." Is this implying that Alt Marta and the older lady are actually one and the same? The older lady continues, "That's what you wanted." My instincts tell me that this is a conversation between Adam and the older Eve-like figure. Then the dark matter is shown shrinking to nothing, perhaps signifying the end of the cycle. Words appear on screen. The 3rd cycle. The final cycle. This is referring to it being the final season of the show, but also at the same time referring to the final cycle within the show. The 3 new characters are shown again, watching what looks to be Adam's underground base going up in flames. What seems like Marta's voice says, "You promised there'd be a way to change it all." This seems like she's talking to the Eve-like figure, who she's just realized has different motives to her, just like Jonas did with Adam when he wanted Michael to actually kill himself. We see a blonde woman beating a man with a fire extinguisher in what seems to be a caravan. Is this connected to Benny Voller, who lives in a caravan? Or could this be Torben Voller getting hit and losing the sight in one eye? Who is this woman? Franziska? Elizabeth? Not sure. Blonde hair might mean Elizabeth. It then shows a woman in a pink jacket hitting someone else with a rock. The theory is that this is Katarina's mother, who seems to be Claudia's receptionist at the power plant, based on photos that have been released. And it seems like Alt Ulrich decided to kill baby Hitler too. Good stuff. Jonas and Alt Marta emerge from the desert cave. Jonas is carrying what looks like a light similar to his spherical one, but it's actually quite a different shape. An unknown character approaches them. The face is covered, so I'm not really sure who this could be. It looks kind of like a woman, but this is something we're just going to have to wait and see. Adam says, "We can't escape our fate." The fact that this is played over the desert scene, maybe that actually means that this is the future, because it's the fate. Jonas is seen yelling at Adam's face, "What do you want from me?" Noah, possibly Alt Noah, is shown with what I assume is the Triquetra book. I translated some of the German in the book. The circle text says, "Beginning of the last cycle." Standard dark stuff. The text at the top was more squiggly. My first attempt yielded, "The top class soap." It's intriguing, but I don't think it's it. I managed eventually to get the correct translation. "The time loop." Again, pretty standard dark stuff. The older female voice can be heard then saying, "I want your journey to finally come to an end." Then there is a shot of the device that I assume will end it all. It's being turned simultaneously. This seems to be the same male hand that was pointing at the infinity symbol earlier in the trailer. Perhaps it's the middle and older of the new characters in different times or worlds. Next we get a shot of a control room of sorts with two people inside. I can't really make out from this distance who they are. Adam says, "It is time," and looks pretty darn proud of himself for it. We then get a shot of the yellow barrels which house the isotope of cesium. I would assume this is the alt world, judging by the red hazmat suits. I also think that maybe this is the point in which the apocalypse occurs in the alt world. It also looks like maybe this is Alexander and Charlotte. Again, more than likely their alt selves. A bright light is shown in the tunnels. Maybe this is the two worlds turning to one. Maybe it's the destruction of the cycle once and for all. Jonas screams, "Marta!" Jonas's room is shown with two people embracing. It's hard to tell who they are, and I think they've been edited so that we can't tell on purpose, judging by the head of the taller one. But I think this is probably Alt Marta and Katarina, and if it is, I'll be very happy. There's a theory that's going around that maybe Marta is like Hannah's and Ulrich's child in the alt world. Personally, I don't like this theory at all, because I really like DNA. So I don't really understand how Marta could possibly come from Hannah and Ulrich. She'd have to have the same parents, in my opinion, and this is maybe just a small hill I'd die on, but I really don't think this will be the case. I think they will keep the same parents, which will be fantastic. I think a lot of people are just a bit misled in that theory. Marta screams, "Jonas!" The dark matter then starts to emit the light, like from the tunnels, I assume. A cloaked figure who I assume is Stranger Jonas gets struck by the energy from the dark matter. I assume this is how he gets burnt like Adam. It would make sense, because he has to do a lot of trial and error in making this machine. Jonas and Marta are shown running from the bunker in the desert world. Alt Magnus and Franziska are then shown doing a Rogue One. This isn't going to be a fun scene to watch, I don't think. Jonas tackles Marta, and they both seem to be teleported away. I assume Alt Bartos dies? I mean, how could he survive? Also, this puts a bit of a dampener on that whole theory that Alt Bartos and Bartos sort of switch that I had back when I was looking at the family tree. Well, let's just move on. Finally, we get a shot of the Eve-like figure in her base with a painting of Adam and Eve. We now see for the first time that the Adam and Eve paintings are actually in separate frames, signifying the separate worlds. This seems to confirm a big part of the wide-held Adam and Eve theory. Also, we get confirmation that the three new characters are working for the Eve-like character. Then this Eve figure says, "And so the cycle repeats itself." Is the Eve-like figure trying to begin the cycle anew while Adam is trying to destroy it? We then see Jonas and Alt Marta right after they've kissed, further hinting at the Adam and Eve theory. The dark title then displays the R backwards. I'll have to think about the significance of this. I'm not sure at the minute. So there you have it. The trailer was dropped. My excitement is at fever pitch. I cannot wait for this epic series to come to a conclusion. And judging by this trailer, I don't think it'll disappoint. The trailer didn't have Claudia, Hannah, very much of Katarina, not much of the future girl, Celia I think her name is. So there's still a lot more to learn. So I cannot wait. I've still got plenty of theories and some analysis to do before it drops, hopefully, so keep checking in. But until then, I'm going to go watch this trailer another 1,000 times.